everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. Yeah, it's an exciting day. I don't know if you can tell, but my whole back is sweat, like a soaked with sweat, because I was so happy and excited to meet everyone here and just running around up and down the stage. So I think we already have a quick intro on the, thank you so much for the speaker over there. So maybe we can just start off with a brief introduction from each of you, and then we can jump right into the questions. I have a few of the questions that I'm also very curious about, because having worked at Meta and other big companies as a product manager, I've always been thinking about how to become a better version of myself. So I'm very excited to interview all of you today. So why don't we start with Eric first?
Sure. So really happy to be here. I'm right now at a company called Safety. It's a 6.5-year-old company. Our mission is really simple: to eliminate crime. So we build technology products that help law enforcement apprehend suspects across the United States. And we're a couple of $100 million in revenues today. Super excited to be here. Prior to that, I was CIO at Cooper Software. We help businesses save money. So I went pretty much from saving money to saving lives.
Well, definitely everyone is super humble here. If you look at them up on Google or anything, like he actually brought a company from 80 million to a unicorn. And it's actually like at Block Safety, he's saving a lot of lives with the community watch, like integration with the police department, is a fighting crime. So okay, next up we have Keith. Why don't you go ahead and tell us more about
that's a tough act to follow. I'm Keith Enright. I am a partner at a law firm called Gibson Dunn and Crutcher, one of the largest law firms in the world. There I co-chair the artificial intelligence practice, as well as the tech and innovation industry group. I've only been there for about a month, full disclosure. So before that, I spent the better part of 14 years as the chief privacy officer at Google. Also working to keep people safe all over the world. I'm really interested in the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem. I'm an LP with Menlo. I sit on the board of directors of a company called ZoomInfo, where I joined before the IPO, saw them through the IPO, which at the time was the largest software IPO in the last 10 years. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation. Thanks.
Wow. Yeah, it's one of the, so I actually looked Keith up. He has a lot of interview on YouTube. One of the one that really stood out to me is the one where he was actually helping like different nations like in Europe to set up the standard of GDPR to help protect billions of users in Google, right? So I think that's super cool, and we definitely want to hear more about how you juggle between all the privacy and ethics and how to innovate in the technology. And lastly, we have Esther. Esther, would you like to tell us more about yourself?
Well, I'm very impressed with my fellow panel members. So thank you very much. My name's Esther Wojcicki. I'm known as the Godmother of Silicon Valley. That name was given to me by my former students and my students. I founded the largest media program in the United States. It's at a high school, Palo Alto High School. We have 800 students taking journalism, learning on their own to be journalists, not because they want to be a journalist, but because they want to learn to think. And the way that journalists learn to think is they gather information from multiple sources, and then they have to figure out what's most important. Just try it. It's really hard. And then also another reason that I'm here is, by the way, so I'm a Berkeley graduate. And I was an English major, I'm political science, I have a master's in journalism, and I've also got a master's in education. So, I didn't want to leave, but I did leave, and you'll be kind of surprised where I left to. I'm at Stanford. So, I love Stanford too. So, I have to take care of both groups. And I'm very happy to be here and to be working with all of you, because you bring an incredible energy and vitality to changing the world and making the world a better place. And I do a lot of mentoring, and I also help teachers try to change the way that they teach. If you go online, you'll see there's a lot of videos. I talk all over the world. And I'm trying to change the education system from direct lecture method all the time to peer-to-peer collaborative learning. I think people learn more when they do things for themselves and come up with their own projects, their own ideas. and work on them. So anyway, but I haven't given up, even though it's been a big struggle.
Oh, thank you. As a follow-up, I actually watched her TED Talk before, and also she's published a few books. One of the biggest thing I take away that I learned from all this online sources is that Google actually started in her home's garage. Now, is it your daughter's garage?
So yes, that's another kind of thing. Yes, Google started actually, the reason there's a confusion between my daughter and me is because she bought the house, but then, she needed some help, paying the mortgage, right? So who is actually paying the mortgage? And anyway, so she needed a little help. And so she ran around and she actually just went to transfer union at Stanford and hung around there. And some friend said to her, well, do you want to meet these two guys? They need a place to put their company and they've got no place to go. And, you've got this empty garage and you have to pay the mortgage. So those two guys just happened to be Larry and Sergey. And so they moved into her garage and that was the beginning of Google. And then she became Google's 16th employee. She was the first product manager for Google, or not product, she was the first manager of the media for Google, and she then became CEO of YouTube. And so anyway, she had a very long history with Google.
Wow, that's very impressive. And not just Google, but also even Steve Jobs was part of inspired by her as well. So that's a start. I know that this goes on and on, and just want to make sure we even get through like the first question. So maybe Esther, let's start with you. Like, what does going from good to great mean in your field or even in your understanding in the world? Can you tell us more?
So my theory on going from good to great is that many, many people have good ideas, even great ideas. And then they get together, a team of people, and then they work in their startup or whatever it is. And what differentiates the ones that succeed from the ones that don't, and by the way, the ones that don't are like 80% fail, the statistics. And I think what makes a company succeed is how you treat the people in your company. Interpersonal relations are the most important thing of all. If you look at the failures, you'll see that usually the startups, the founders will be fighting with each other. It's a total nightmare. So my daughter Susan had this philosophy that you want to empower the people that work with you. All the people that are working with you, they need to feel appreciated and important. Even though you might have come up with the best idea, it doesn't matter. You all need each other to be successful. And so that's what I do in my book. I talk about this philosophy of mine, TRICK. And TRICK stands for trust, respect, independence, collaboration, and kindness. You need to trust your employees or trust your students, treat them with respect, give them as much independence as possible, and also treat them with kindness, collaborate and treat them with kindness. So yes, thank you very much. And I can just go on and on.
Yeah. Okay, then maybe we'll go to Keith next about your definition of good to great.
Sure. I mean, I think in terms of features of the founding team, I've dealt with a ton of startups over the years. The thing that I have seen correlate with success 100% of the time has been a relentless enthusiasm, optimism, and passion for the thing you're trying to do. So teams that believe they are working towards something that is going to improve humanity or deliver some kind of meaningful value and change tends to sort of keep that enthusiasm and passion going. Myself, whenever I'm talking to a startup, when the founding team seems distracted, disengaged, or they lack confidence in their own idea, that sort of tends to not be something that's going to hold my attention for very long.
Got it.
Yeah, no, I agree with Keith and Esther. I mean, the one word that comes to mind, if I think about, where we were successful at Coupa and we were seeing, tremendous success at Block is execution, right? I feel like ideas are great. Ideas also a dime in a dozen. It's always about the execution. I think that, one of the values we have at Block is doing the work. being able to be in the details, but also having an overview of everything else. But the day you lose momentum of being able to execute, motivating the team to be able to execute, I think that's the day, you'll start failing. So on the inverse of that, what's good from good to great, I think really, really great teams are maniacally focused on whatever the objective is, and then just charging up the hill and never giving up.
That's very good to transition into our next question, which is talking about like balancing innovation and risk. I think Eric, why don't you take a stab at it, because I know you recently got this award of a 2024 Orbi Award. It's like a prestigious award in technology of innovation. So I know you also work in public safety and security products. So how do you balance that? Can you let us know more about your execution strategy?
Sure, Kevin. I think, listen, and I think it depends on where you're at throughout your company's journey, right? I think that's the risk you take from 0 to 1 or 0 to 10, and then the risk you need to take to get it from, say, 100 to 1 billion. And how I would best frame it is if you think about the percentage, right? So when you've got an idea and you're a startup founder trying to get from 0 to say 10, you don't have an idea on what you're trying to solve. I mean, and that's the reality of it, right? So I would say at least the risk factor there is go try it, right? Go out there, fail, and I've seen so many people pivot, and don't think about it in years, think about it in months, right? So you think about every 3 months, see if you've got product market fit, go test it out there, and if 60 to 70% of your time it's not out there speaking to customers, you fail. If you're in your room and coding and then building stuff, you're failing. Because you can build the greatest product if you don't know what people need and what the business value is. I mean, what's the point of building, what you're building? So I think that's one phase of it. I think as the company grows and evolves from, say, 10 million to 100 million, you got to take risks because I think the product needs to continue to evolve. So as an example, like even at Flock, I mean, we're a couple hundred million in revenues, and we just bought a drone company, an 18-month-old drone company to help solve for public safety, right? And again, it was a decision of build versus buy. My advice is, and if I think about the framing, right? Well, we were 90% 6 years ago in terms of risk. The risk tolerance now, or at least we set aside somewhere between 5 to 10% of the funds to go try something new. So I think it really depends. And I think, I'm sure Keith, Google's a very inquisitive company, has its own experiences. But again, if you saw Google evolve, I'm sure you saw it whether through acquisition or organic growth, some of the risk and innovation, bets that they took.
Shall I respond? Yes. So, I mean, I don't think I need to say this to the people in this room. Being an entrepreneur is having an atypical risk appetite, right? Like you are willing to put more on the line than the average person because you want to have an asymmetric result. You want to achieve something that the average person isn't going to be capable of achieving. So I do think whether you're at something operating at Google scale, or whether you are 2 people operating out of a dorm room or a basement, what you need to do at the front end of your project is calibrate your own risk continuum. There are perfectly reasonable risks to take, and they may be risks that make other people skeptical, right? The idea that you are going to go all in on a startup is itself it's an incredible risk, right? It's an amazing level. You're exposing yourself in a significant way there. And then recognize that there are lines that you won't cross, right? And I think at any scale, you don't want to put people at risk. You don't want to put people in harm's way. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, you can look back and you can take pride in the decisions that you made when you were building your business. And I don't think those lines should be difficult to negotiate to someone who's just sort of being honest with themselves throughout the entire project.
Got it. That's great. Maybe Esther, can you add on this topic?
So on the risk thing, I agree with both of you. It's really important points. What happens is there's different risk tolerances in the group. And whoever you're working with, they have different, they're just built in. And some people get really nervous when there's too much risk. And then that's where all the disagreements begin. And also, let's say you fail, which is, it's going to happen. So then how do you deal with failure? The very first thing you need to do is forgive yourself. And most people don't forgive themselves, and they don't forgive the people that are with them. And then that's, again, the beginning of all this confrontation, hidden agendas. You don't want to have hidden agendas. It's really difficult. You want to follow, you know, John Doerr. Do you guys all know about John Doerr? You should look up John Doerr. Remember what his book? It's Built to Last. Is that? John Doerr has this OKRs that everybody should follow: objectives and key results. And so if you don't meet your objectives, okay, we didn't meet your objectives that month, okay? So it's a big deal. So Eric, I think, is the one that said, you gotta keep moving, you've gotta keep going, you have to have your passion. And don't let those failures disappoint you to such a degree that you then can't work effectively. Because then you're gonna be ending up in the 80% instead of the 20%.
Donnie, that's a great point. Actually, it's a great transition to our next topic, which is going to be driven by you. Esther, is about mentorship and impact, right? I feel like a lot of the topic you mentioned about how the education system is broken. So how would you touch on this topic, and how could the people in the audience develop their strategy on finding the right mentor so they can bring more awareness about themselves and become a better version of themselves?
So finding a mentor is really important. There's a place there, I don't think there is any place where you can like apply for a mentor, you know? You guys know there, I mean, I mentor a lot of companies. And, you know, I enjoy doing it. You know, basically I'm a teacher and I love helping people. But I've got, you know, other people that you know as well, and other people that I know also mentor. But you want somebody that you can talk to about the problem you're having to help you, you know, get through these difficult times. Because being an entrepreneur, honestly, it is so much more difficult than just going to work for somebody from 9 to 5, and I did my job, and now I'm going to go home and have dinner. So it doesn't happen like that. So you just need somebody to support you. And maybe there's mentoring groups here at Berkeley, I don't know, but it'd be great if there could be, you know, a way for people to find mentors easily. And it sounds silly, you know, why do you need a mentor? Well, you just, I mean, as far as I can tell, the whole country seems to be developing, having therapists. You know, therapists all the time. All my students have therapists. It's like, really? My day, we just had friends.
Which is a great point, Esther. You know, I think about, you know, any founder or anyone here in the room, right? Finding a mentor is really, really, really important. I mean, listen, guys, I mean, whether you have your startup for a year or 10 years, it's going to be horrible. I mean, that's just the reality of it, right? And you just want someone there who you can bounce ideas off, someone who, you know, can be supportive. I mean, there's going to be a lot of rough days, and it's it's never going to be a one size fits all. If you think about, I mean, even the three of us, I bet with you, like everyone would find a different affinity to, like, whether it's Hsieh, Esther, or myself. So make sure you pick someone that you can get along with. I think that's my one takeaway from this, because when you're down in the trenches, when you're down and out, when you're not hitting your numbers, when your product's broken, when your customers have just zero interest in what you're doing, you need this individual to be there, guiding you and providing, you know, inspiration.
But just three sort of very tactical things. One, you're here, right? You're part of this DECODE community. There are mentors all around you. Like Hsieh is, I think, a tremendous mentor to many of you already. I would say, don't be shy. Like, don't allow your own inhibitions or your own introverted nature to prevent you from exploiting the resources that are around you. You're at Berkeley or you're at Stanford, you have access to a social graph that is the envy of everyone everywhere else in the world. Like, don't waste that. Don't waste a minute of it. Thing two, I would say, I have always tried to create sort of 1% of my time for the last 25 years. If somebody reaches out to me on LinkedIn, I can't help everyone, but I've always tried to create space to be responsive. And I will actually take a little bit of time every few weeks to set a half hour or an hour aside to talk to students or talk to early stage entrepreneurs and just give them whatever advice that I can. I would say, again, be bold, like put yourself out there, look on LinkedIn, look for people that are interesting, that you want to role model, that have done things that look like behaviors that you want to kind of mimic or improve yourselves. Even if you ask 10 people, if you have a 10% success rate and one of them responds and extends you the courtesy of having a conversation with you, that's winning. Like, that's extraordinarily valuable. Mentors are all around you.
Yeah, I can't agree more on the.
I was going to say, Keith is my role model.
Oh.
I added him on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna look up their both of their LinkedIn and up my games. But that's totally right. Like just a quick fun fact, I actually reached out to a lot of people on LinkedIn. The success rate is actually much higher than I expected. It's like over 70% connection successfully and over 20% people reply my messages. Of course, I tried very hard over the past decades. So I'm available as well. I also have my product manager community. So if any of you would like to ask any question about working in a big tech company, I'm here for you. Yeah, and then maybe let's go to the last question, like for Keith. Like if we have this kind of like balance between the achieving great results while maintaining ethical integrity, like about like scaling up big companies, right? And from going from good to great, like what's your strategy when you were like scaling up Google's like privacy and trust initiatives?
So integrity is something that should never be compromised, right? It sounds trite to say it, but at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. Your reputation is everything. When I joined Google, we were in kind of a tough spot. The company had a couple of public fumbles. I won't sort of go through that whole laundry list right now, but part of my job was I was an international spokesperson. So I would get on planes, fly to cities all over the world, meet with regulators and governments, and try to explain to them why we did the things that we did and convince them that we were on the right side of history. One of the things that I learned very, very quickly was they didn't trust us. They thought we were being dishonest. They thought that we lacked integrity. And engaging with sincere, authentic humility. And candidly, like I wasn't necessarily bringing that to the table in the first few conversations. So the first few times I met with regulators in other parts of the world, I shared the general Silicon Valley hubris. I presumed I knew better than they did where technology was headed. I presumed that their lack of technological sophistication was impairing their ability to make good decisions around public policy or the law. By discovering humility in my first few months with the company, I realized I could have very authentic conversations with people who were not only in a position to apply pain to me, but they were also in a position to educate me. And I learned across those first few years, these were extraordinarily intelligent, mission-driven people in jurisdictions all over the world. And when I began really presuming goodwill in every one of those conversations, I could learn. I was no longer out there just trying to win. I was no longer trying to convince people. I was engaging in a dialogue that my sincere desire was that it was going to be mutually beneficial. So approach everything, make sure that you're sort of never compromising your integrity or your morals in advance of your professional goals and aspirations. It's never going to be a good idea. It's never going to end well. And then engage authentically and keep humility with you even as you achieve your inevitable success, because the humility is the thing that's going to allow you to engage with people in an authentic way that will deliver better mutually beneficial interactions all the time.
Yeah, I think you did a great job. Awesome. I think that wraps up our panel. Actually, I still have like a laundry list of questions I want to ask you, but we do have a round table after this event. So please give a round of applause for our guests here.